Before we get too far, I want to take a moment and talk about this a little bit. Because what are some of the emotions that we've had up here? We had bored and exhausted.
Overwhelmed and anxious.
Nervous.
Irritated and frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Now let's think about those for a second. For the most part, everybody was able to get except overwhelmed. No one saw overwhelmed, right? They saw depressed or nervous and a variety of other things, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I want to pick on anxious, not you, Grayson, just the term anxious. Okay? What are some different ways that people show when they are feeling anxious?
It's funny because not every thing of anxious shows like you think it would.
Right. So, for example, when I get really anxious, I have one of two reactions. Ray has seen this. I either shut down and get really, really twitchy and start having trouble speaking. But it's not just because I'm anxious, it's also because I'm overwhelmed, because emotions are annoying and they tend to group together, okay? Mm-hmm. Another way that I can be anxious is I can be like super hyped up and bouncing off the walls and just completely all over the place because I'm like anxious but excited. Mm-hmm. Or I can be standing here and talking to you guys, and anybody realize that maybe I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety about being up here?
No, not at all.
No.
No.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret.
You are?
Yes, very anxious, especially after last week when I pushed you guys a little too hard, and I left here feeling pretty crappy, to be honest.
Oh.
Just fully transparent. Because I pushed you guys too hard without really getting to know you. And part of that was because the way this is designed is to build, and we didn't get to do that last week. Which is part of the reason why we're having a little more fun this week. One thing, I've done this one for years. It's the one that I'm most comfortable with. So I just want you to keep that in mind when you come up here. Don't try to show us what you think we want to see. I want to see what you really think that emotion looks like. And an example of embarrassed. Embarrassed is another good emotion. Because you can be embarrassed and internalize it, or you can be embarrassed to be with somebody else and it's external. And those are going to present differently, right? So just a few little things to think about, because part of the reason we're doing this is so that we can learn how to better communicate. How do you think we are judged? Based more on our words or our actions?
Both.
True. But how often, and we do this to other people as well, we all have our own internal bias. We all have our internal prejudice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way that humans are built. It is a safety mechanism. It is what keeps us protected from danger. The problem is when we don't learn how to recognize that and move past it. Because sometimes you have to move past that, especially when you're not really in danger, but our little piranha brain's like, oh yeah, you are. Okay? So now comes the fun. Because the first volunteers get off a little easier than the second set of volunteers. Because communication is both verbal and nonverbal, yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How much of our communication and what we communicate with the world is nonverbal? Anybody know?
Wait, what does that mean?
Nonverbal means no speaking.
99.999%.
Not quite. Depending on the statistics you look at, it's anywhere between 80 and 95% of all communication is nonverbal. And part of that includes things like inflection and tone and other fancy terms I can't think of off the top of my head. But a lot of it has to do with our behaviors. And the way that we act is the way that we are perceived. And let's think of some situations where maybe someone would not be able to communicate verbally. Anyone? Bueller? You got it. Yes.
A deaf person.
That's a great example.
Oh,
Yes.
Vocal cords are paralyzed.
It could be that you have a physical impairment that is not allowing you to speak. It could be that you are just really overwhelmed and you're really shy, and so you're having trouble communicating verbally. It could be that you just don't speak the language. These are all examples. And then there are some people who are considered to be nonverbal because they are not at a place where they are able to speak verbally. They're not able to communicate verbally. And so oftentimes we don't recognize that they are communicating strictly through the behavior. Yeah.
Not for interrupting, but also people that have gone through like a lot of trauma can't really speak sometimes.
Exactly. See, you guys get this. So now the people who didn't come up here the first time get to come up here and do it without words.
Words? How is that even possible?
Without words.
Yes, you can use any noise, appropriate gesture, because this is a
Any
school.
noise. Any
like
noise?
wave or something.
You can wave, you can.
You can move any body language.
Oh, that's good.
That is what we want you to do. You can use noises.
Noises. They don't have to be noises though, does it?
No, you can use any gestures you want as long as they're appropriate because, again, school.
My anxiety's kicking in.
Yeah, we got that.
You can use any noise that you want to, grunts or other, like, honk, honk, stuff like that. You just can't use any known language. Whether it is English or Spanish or Klingon, it does not matter. You do not get to speak.
No!
Covering all bases here. Because happy and excited are pretty close together. Yes? Usually? Relaxed and depressed. Those two don't typically belong together, yes?
I'm mostly relaxed all the time. I see me like this all the
That's
time.
true.
Eli, I'm not picking on you at all. I'm picking on the word.
I know. I'm picking on them because they see me do that all the time.
So here's the thing. Why did you guys think that he was depressed? Okay.
Didn't look like he wants to be there.
Okay. Anybody else? Why did we think that he was depressed and not relaxed?
I thought he looked like he was sad.
Which is close to depressed. But why? Why did you think that?
He was like,
He had to talk when he didn't want
he
to.
was putting his mouth down.
I thought he was tired, to be honest with
I
you.
am tired, literally.
Which explains why.
I mean, I can be tired and relaxed at the same time.
So let me ask you something. How often have you maybe just felt relaxed and you were just kind of chilling out and people came over like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are you depressed?
Nope,
Wow, I really wish I lived your lives. Because I've had people like, I'm just chilling out, relaxed, hanging, just kind of calm, neutral, apparently.
Also, I should have given it a share.
And I've had people come up to me and go, hey, are you okay? Are you feeling depressed? Do we need to call somebody? Are you suicidal?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one's a very fun question.
I had to get sent to a psych ward before.
So,
I ended up asleep.
and this is an example of why we need to be careful with our behavior. Okay? What do we think Miss Sarah was today?
I think she was overwhelmed, like, anxious. Because she was walking back and forth and going in circles.
Okay, anybody else want to give it a shot?
I'm just
Patient in the way.
impatient.
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 Sarah, you want to give us your emotion?
Overstimulated.
Oh.
You're not
So
allowed
easy.
to tell me something.
That makes sense. But you would be those things if you were overstimulated.
So let's talk about this for a second, okay? Again, nobody got overstimulated. Who here ever gets overstimulated?
Yeah, I thought everyone.
Right?
All of us, yeah.
Yeah, it's all of us pretty much.
What are some of the behaviors you guys exhibit? Because she's having a hard time trying to figure out how to do this. What are some of the behaviors you use when you're feeling overstimulated?
Excessive work.
Be a little punch, right?
Just
Just shut down, really. Shut down, take a walk.
Okay.
Calm down, come back.
Emotional.
Emotional. What does that look like?
Like,
I keep getting like it.
emotional.
Perfect.
Usually I
An emotional can be happy, sad, mad.
Emotional and
There are 5 and I can't remember the others.
emotional and like I'm exhausted.
Okay. Ray, how do you show that you're overstimulated?
For me, I feel like there's like something boiling up inside of me, in my chest.
Well, what do you show that as?
I'm angry.
He's mad at me and Grayson all the time.
So when I get overstimulated, a lot of times I'll start tapping my fingers like this, or tapping my eyelids. What else does that look like?
That's what I'm nervous.
I can be mistaken for maybe being anxious, stressed.
Temptation.
Worry.
Yeah, see, these are all things that are behavior. Okay, so let me ask you something. If I'm standing like this, what do you guys think I'm showing you?
You're in trouble.
You're anxious.
Okay, what else?
Waiting.
What if I just told you this is my relaxed, comfortable state,
Swear to God, that's me.
Yeah,
Say.
right? But we are taught that if you have your arms crossed over your chest like this, that you're closed off, and that it means that you're angry. And for someone like me, who really struggles reading body language and picking up on social cues and understanding people, because humans are confusing, and emotions are even more confusing because, like I said earlier, how often do emotions come one at a time? How often do emotions come in and they're not in conflict with one another? Right? So just like with the rules of improv, you can have conflict and agreement. Because they're occupying the same space in my head and they're in agreement. Yeah, we're both going to be here. We're both emotions. But we're going to conflict with one another because they don't make sense. How can you be grieving but also happy at the same time? That doesn't make sense.